On this Danielle Kirsty, Danielle tackles a bizarre grooming case involving a female teacher and a male student. And before you start constructing a different narrative, this was not a complicated situation. There was no gray area. It was not a misunderstanding. She flat out groomed him. She definitely abused her position. And then, apparently deciding that professional and legal boundaries are more of a suggestion, she freaking moved herself into his home. Danielle covers it with exactly the serious tone it deserved, which is something this particular category of case has not always received from the media. The presentation is thorough, precise, and deliberately unflinching about what this actually was, regardless of the genders involved. This one is important viewing. Later, on Detective Michael, a 13-year-old girl, in a case that took a decade to reach any kind of resolution. On Detective Michael is a case involving a 13-year-old girl and the 10 years it took to solve it. 10 years. For a child. What Detective Michael does with this case is methodical and documentary in its approach, building the timeline carefully, letting the weight of a decade of unanswered questions accumulate before anything gets resolved. It's the kind of presentation that reminds you why some cases stay with investigators long after the file should have gone cold. Thorough and unflinching. Some cases deserve 10 years of attention. This is one of them. On this episode of 48 Hours, correspondent Erin Moriarty covers the murder of an aspiring Broadway dancer and the deeply complicated story that surrounded it. What 48 Hours does that remains genuinely difficult to replicate is the access they get, the interviews, the pacing of a long-form television documentary that was being perfected here before anyone else was doing it. Moriarty asks the questions that a good journalist always asks. Not just what happened, but why, and whether the victim's own circumstances played a role in putting her in danger. This one's on YouTube, full and uncut. It's an older case, but it holds up the way good journalism always does. On nightly crime cases, a murder recorded entirely on closed-circuit television. There is something uniquely unsettling on a case where the camera was silently witnessing the entire crime. No conflicting witness accounts, no one's word against anyone else's, just pure footage. This is a case where the evidence was always there, waiting for someone to look at it properly. Sometimes the most chilling detail of a crime story is not what was hidden, but what was visible the entire time. In the Mohave Desert of Arizona in 1989, a woman's body was found with no name, no ID. A Jane Doe in the dirt and sand. A couple of days later, 2 little girls were found all alone in a park restroom in Oxnard, California. A 2-month-old and a 14-month-old. No parents, no note, no nothing. The 2 girls were placed into foster care. Thankfully, they were eventually adopted together. But they grew up with no idea who they were, or even where they came from. The woman in the desert, she stayed a Jane Doe for more than 30 years, until a cold case investigator finally ran her fingerprints. Fingerprints that were on file from a 1989 shoplifting arrest. Her name was Marina Ramos from Bakersfield, California. At the end of 2025, just last year, those 2 little girls, who are now grown women, suddenly learned who they were for the very first time. This case is still open. Marina's killer has not been found. If you have any information about a young Hispanic woman in a red skirt and white boots in the Oxnard, California area circa December 1989, please call 928-753-0753, extension 4408. Marina Ramos deserved better than a desert grave. Her daughters deserved to know her name growing up. Links to all the stories that are accessible online are in the description. Subscribe to It's About Damn Crime to see more curated true crime stories that you might miss. And if you know a good crime story or channel, share it with us. See you next week for more true crime stories and where to find them.